Shall we begin? Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. In today's video we're going to be talking about the Nikon 5000 series. In specific, we're going to be talking about the Nikon 5300 and the Nikon D5600 that I'm now going to refer to the 600 and the 300 because I'm never going to be able to say the numbers in the correct order otherwise. So we're going to talk about the similarities and the differences between the two. Now, the cameras themselves, they have a disparity in price of about £100 at the time of recording this video, or the time I did my script at least. There's a couple of things to consider. Now, before I go over the basic specs, I'm not going to go into complete detail, but I will leave the basic specs in the description down below if you are interested. And I would love to hear your thoughts on the setup as well as I'm recording this video, so let me know as well in the comment section down below if you think it's improved. I think it has personally, but anyway, moving back to these two cameras. So the main specs is basically nearly the same. There's a couple of features that I would like to talk about today. So they both use the same image sensor, as you may know, and basically they are going to nearly produce the same image as long as you're using the same glass and etc. So if you're really here to hear that answer, then long story short, if you don't need a lot of the features I'm about to go over, then I would say get the Nikon 5300 because you save a little bit of money. Moving on, they both shoot 1080p 60 fps. Now, however, there is a slight issue and a slight caveat to the 300's menu system. Now, I find this personally really annoying and I don't really understand why, minus the fact that it might just be an older camera and that's the only reason why I can see it would make sense. So basically in the 300 menu, or the Nikon D5300 that I'm now going to refer to as the 300 as I said, their menu breaks it up into PAL and NFC. Now, those of you who don't know, I'll briefly go over them. PAL is basically the European standard, and some other countries as well, standard for frame rates when you broadcast television. Now, so it breaks those frame rates up into separate menus, and then it does the same for NFS, which is the Americanized version, or the more American version. But I don't just see why you don't just add it like it does in the 600 into one menu, because you know what frame you want to be shooting on if you were ever shooting for telly on a entry-level mirrorless, which I don't really understand, because you wouldn't in most cases shoot, or for some, like, I don't see a reason why you would shoot on an entry-level mirrorless if you're shooting for television, to be honest. But anyway, maybe you can let me know in the comments down below why there would be a reason why they would be shooting on an entry-level mirrorless for TV. Wouldn't they be shooting on something higher end, like a Panasonic or like a Red or something cine grade, or at least TV grade, you know? Moving on to the next feature that we want to talk about. So both of these cameras have a focus little box. It's a red box on manual focus and a green bit of the autofocus box. I wouldn't trust, just talking about autofocus really quickly, wouldn't trust the autofocus on either of these cameras. It's not very good. Don't. Always shoot manual focus anyway. You should probably be shooting manual focus anyway, so then there's no hunting issues or etc like that. But it can be a pain in the ass to shoot on manual some of the time. So moving back to the box. Now, what I found on the 300 is some of the time when I use it to punch in to really check if I've got critical focus or not on my subject, I sometimes have issues where the camera itself won't actually respond as quickly as I would like it to, and it's like a little bit laggy and can have issues. So just keep this in mind. I personally find it kind of annoying, hence why I normally use my 600 for the other reasons I'm going to go over as well, but mainly the 600 is my main body and the main one I shoot with until I get my new camera in September. So, and then this will become my second shooter, and then my 300 will become my third camera. We're going over the focus box issue. I think that it's still a little laggy and it just feels cheaper, and like the processor inside the camera is having a hard time actually doing it and really punching in and trying to help me pull focus. It just seems a little bit less responsive than the 600 does. So the 600 overall, I would say, just looks a bit more premium. It feels a lot more premium when it comes to build quality as well, which is something the next one we're going to go over. Every material, even though they're made out of a similar material, all the materials on the 300, in my opinion, feel a lot cheaper, and they just feel like there was corners cut where I don't necessarily feel there probably needed to be necessarily. I think that the majority of the ergonomics this is a photo camera, are pretty good. Obviously Nikon's not the main source of video, and they don't focus on video as much, because I would like to see some different options, especially with like the battery door and things like that, but that's for a separate video. I won't go over that specifically right now, but that doesn't necessarily break apart the two cameras specifically, because they both have the same build quality and the same ergonomics with them. The ergonomics themselves, I would say, is pretty good. They're nice to hold in the hand. As I say, the 300 just feels a little bit cheaper. Now, as a time-lapse photographer, those of you who don't know me, I'm also a time-lapse photographer. I do commercial time-lapses and so on, and my throat's killing me. As a time-lapse photographer, a technique that I use quite often and I really enjoy using, and I think is really unique in the respect to what people actually use, is a transition between night to day, otherwise known as a holy grail time-lapse. Now, this time-lapse is a process where you have to pause your time-lapse or your intervalometer shooting and then change your settings or ramp your shutter, then your aperture, etc. I have videos talking about this, and I'm going to be doing a follow-up video between the two modes, how to shoot time-lapses. Probably the next video I film, but not going into that tangent right now. On the 300, you cannot pause a time-lapse or an intervalometer shooting, so it's just impossible to do Holy Grails. Well, that's certainly not true, because you can get a remote, but I never have found a remote I like. The ones I've tried I haven't liked. I've just liked the built into the camera, and I can't understand how hard it would be, maybe because I'm not an engineer, but I still can't understand how hard it would be just to add that feature in software, or firmware, should I say, for the 300. As far as I'm aware, all you're asking it to do is stop taking photos and then resume taking photos from where it left off, which just means it just saves it into the RAM, I assume. I don't know. Yeah, so it basically means that you cannot shoot Holy Grails on the 300. The only way you can is either with an intervalometer remote or by turning on and off the camera, which I wouldn't recommend, because all you're doing then is power cycling the battery, and eventually you'll just kill the battery. So yeah, don't do that. So the 600 has a touch screen. Those of you who is that like a deal breaker for some people, then yay, great. I personally don't use it because I normally use a field service monitor to see myself and see my histograms and all that kind of thing for video anyway, so I lose the functionality of the touch screen by plugging it into a monitor anyway. But when I'm actually just using the camera without the monitor, it is kind of handy and can speed up a little bit. But the only time where I would say you really need the touchscreen, and where the touchscreen is really important, is when you're moving your focus box around, because otherwise you have to move it using arrows, or like the equivalent of a joystick, but it's basically on arrows, and it can be kind of annoying. So that's the only benefit I would say. But as I say, if you're going to be adding on accessories to the camera, then I wouldn't necessarily, you lose that functionality of that touchscreen anyway as it sits. So just something to keep in mind. Now, doing my research for this video, I came across a couple of other reviews and a couple of other people who had talked about these two cameras, in some cases 3 cameras as well, and they claimed that the battery life was slightly better on the 600 over the 300. In my experience, they have about the same battery life. You can get basically on the branded battery, so the original ones, you can get about 3 to 4 hours, and then on like an aftermarket one like this, for example, then you can get something like 2.5 to 3 hours of shooting video, and then probably about double that if you're shooting time lapses, because time lapses take up less power, because you're not actually having to, you're just having to pull the mirror up and down instead of just constantly read frames off the sensor. Now, moving on to what I categorized in my notes and my script here as gimmicks, or gimmick features. Now, that's mainly because in most cases I could really live without these features. There's other ways you could do it, but it's not necessarily as easy. SnapBridge and connectivity. Now, the 300 cannot connect to SnapBridge. It cannot even connect to your phone, which is not the biggest deal in the world, because in most cases you can remotely trigger your shutter in a photography term just by using the remote that comes with your camera anyway. And failing that, you can get someone else to press the shutter button for you, or you can just put it on a timer. But there has been a couple of cases where I have used remote photography. It is kind of cool if you want to take a self-portrait, but that's about it. Some of the time I use the live view to frame up my shot when I'm doing video as well, because it gives you a live preview and possibly check focus, even though you can't really zoom in. So now I'm just using my film monitor more so in that respect as well. But the thing I do actually use SnapBridge for is, say for example, I'm going to do a time lapse or etc. when I've got to shoot and I want to show you the frame that I took directly out of camera. What I'll then do is when I have packed up and all my gear is packed away and I'm walking home, is I'll connect to my on my phone, I'll connect to that camera, or to my camera, so to my 600 in this case, and I will grab off some small, like 2 megapixel images of the couple of favorites from the frame, whether there's a lot of movement or etc. And then I'll do a very small basic edit, something that I would really like to see if Nikon ends up watching this video. Yeah, right. If Nikon ends up watching this video, it would be really cool to see the ability to be able to download raw files, so you can really play with those colors a little bit more, because one of the reasons why I shoot in JPEG and RAW is because then it gives me that latitude if I don't have the time to process the RAWs, if I need to have a quick turnaround, for example. Or I can then also just, as I said, share it on stories on Instagram and Facebook instantly when I'm going home, if there's something like that I really want to share, specifically like a really cool image. But obviously you have the latitude of a JPEG file instead of a RAW file, so it can be hit or miss depending on what the colors are like and so on. If you nailed it in camera, great, awesome. In most cases, I would say always gonna look better if you nailed it in camera, so just keep this in mind. But now we're getting on tangents, so let's move back to the comparison at hand. Personally, for me, I would say with some of the main caveats and the main issues that I run into, such as the lag, the poor build quality, the ability not really to be able to shoot holy grails on the 300 is the main reason why I personally would recommend getting the D5600 over the 300. And that's only because of the things I just mentioned, and also I feel it's a better starter camera and it's going to last you a lot longer. I haven't had any issues with the 300, but I've also had it half the time I've had my 600. Now my 600 I've basically put through rainstorms, I've put it through snowstorms, I've put it through everything, and I've only had one case where I've nearly bricked it and it's had like a severe issue that was really worrying. And that was my own doing, and it was in torrential rain that I probably shouldn't have even been filming without the camera being covered, etc. Anyway, so that's a story for another day. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to have some more story videos. I think what we're going to do with the channel, I know I said in the review at the end that we're going to do more scripted content, and we are. I've got a couple of plans of things I'm going to be doing. If you're here for the review, before I go on to this little update, thank you for watching. That is going to be my review and comparison on the D5600 and D5300. I want to just briefly talk about those two cameras because I think they're really interesting. The fact that there's kind of a £100 discrepancy between the two and which ones I would choose to buy. If you don't need half of the features which I just mentioned, then I would say go for the 300 because you get the same image basically for £100 less if budget is really that much of an issue for you as well. So just keep that in mind. I'll leave all the links and everything, like more technical information, in the description down below for you as well. But moving briefly back to the updates on the channel and where I'm going to take it, I just want to kind of like adding these on just on the end so I don't have to do a separate update video. The main plan at the moment is going to be that we're going to do some scripted content like this. I've got some more like bigger project plans to do like travel-y stuff, or like edit, or like call edits, or etc. Like we're working on one for London at the moment, for example, and also then do some more vlog content as well. I think that's going to be the way we move forward, just produce content that I'm passionate about and want to make and document as much as I can. So that is going to wrap up my comparison, guys. If you did enjoy this video and you would like to see more like it, and you thought it was helpful and you enjoyed this comparison, let me know in the comments down below. Leave this video with a like and make sure to be subscribed if you would like to be notified when I upload a new video. I'm going to be staying as active as I can on YouTube and also all of my other social medias. I'm fully aware that I haven't uploaded to Instagram forever. Reason why I'm changing my Instagram content a little bit, because I want it to be more quality over specific quantity, and also when we get into the second half of the year is when I normally do the majority of my time-lapse Holy Grail stuff, and a lot of that really goes on Instagram and it's designed for social media, so that's something I'm really going to be looking into moving forward with. So apologies if you thought I rambled a little bit too much in this video, but I'm trying to go a little bit off script because I feel that they can be a little bit more, or can be a little bit too staged. When we get a teleprompter, that's something that I'll probably do a little bit more scripted, and the only times I'll actually do that is when they're more tutorial based videos. Possibly doing some comparisons. I can't speak. Never mind. You know what I mean. So when we do more comparisons, we possibly will do them scripted, but I think we'll see how this one comes out and see what I like. But thank you guys for watching anyway. I'm gonna go. I'll see you very soon. And if you're new to the channel, as I said, please feel free to subscribe. And Let me know what you want in the comment section down below if you're interested in a specific kind of video, specific kind of vlog. I know we've had some new faces join the channel, so thank you very much for that, and I'll see you guys very, very soon.